In today's video I want to give you 8 tips to improve your landscape photography. The first tip that I want to give you guys, and maybe it's already more like a rule, it's like shoot your photos in RAW. When you have a RAW file, you have more info in that photo, so that means you can extract a lot more info from the shadows and also bring down the highlights a little bit more. You can't edit much in a JPEG photo because the info is already baked in that file, so it's a little bit harder to edit that photo. And with a RAW file you can do anything what you want with a file. The second tip is understanding your camera, and that means when you're shooting RAW you have to know how far you can push your images, how far you can push that raw info to get the info out of your shadows and also the info out of the highlights. You have to understand your dynamic range of the sensor of your camera. That's super important when you're shooting in RAW and you're shooting landscapes or other photography, because if you don't understand the capabilities of the sensor and you're underexposing a photo but you're going too far, you cannot pull out the info out of the crushed blacks. Or if you overexpose your images, you can not extract the info from the highlights. So that's very important to know your sensor's capability, the camera, how far you can push it. For the third tip, I'm finally going to take out the camera and show you exactly what I'm going to do with our first subject of this shoot. For the next shot, I went a little bit lower, sitting onto my knees, and I've got the 50mm onto the body. And I framed up a beautiful tree here in this landscape. I went a little bit lower because I want to shoot underneath this beautiful tree, and I want to separate this tree from the background because it's like an umbrella shaped tree. It's a little bit swept with the wind, I guess. And with going a little bit lower to the ground, we have also that foreground element, the purple hay flowers, and that creates for a cool nice touch in this photo, a nice foreground element. But that's not the tip that you're waiting for. The tip with this shot is always expose for your highlights in your picture, because it's easier to bring back details or info from the shadows and the blacks, and not from overexposed parts in your picture. From the moment there's a small part overexposed in your picture, that info is lost forever. But if you have a part that's underexposed in your picture, it's much easier to bring it back, and also it's nicer to have a little bit more darker spots in your picture than overexposed spots in your picture, because it's just going to be pure white and there's nothing to see over there. And for this picture I used the ISO 100, and we are at 1600 of a second for this picture because I'm using a shallow depth of field in this picture. I'm at f4 right now, because I want to have the focus almost only on this tree, to separate it a little bit more from this landscape, to have everything in the back a little bit softer than this tree. So this tree is sharp and everything behind the tree is a little bit softer, so just give that extra nice depth of field in this picture to have that focus a little bit more on this little tree. For all you frog lovers out there, I just took a picture of this little guy. I've got our next composition prepared. Put the camera in portrait orientation. I got some beautiful trees here in the landscape. I got a beautiful foreground element with the purple hay. It's a good one for our next tip because I'm shooting towards the sun. So I got a very high dynamic range picture now, because the sun is so bright and my foreground, it got a lot of shadows. So that means if I would only focus and expose properly for the sky, my sky will be very good, but my shadows or my foreground elements will be pitch black. I will be able to pull out a little bit out of the shadows, but it's going to be too much to pull all the details out. So that's why in this situation I will use bracketing, but I'm not going to do HDR in this photo, but I'm going to shoot multiple pictures. Each picture will be a different level of light. So I will expose for the sky, I will exposure for my middle ground and also for the foreground. So I can afterwards blend those pictures together, but not use HDR in Lightroom or in Photoshop. But I can paint every detail. Bugs, go away. But I will paint in the sky from this picture into another picture with the perfectly exposed foreground, so that we can get a properly exposed picture without using the HDR, because HDR can look super natural, and that's not what we want to have in this landscape. We want to have a natural looking landscape. And I also will give an extra tip in this video how I shoot these pictures when I'm shooting towards the sun. And it's like this. I've got this overexposed sky because I was aiming for a properly exposed foreground. But then the next picture, I put my hand in front of the sun, so my foreground here is properly exposed, because in the other picture here, it's a little bit too much light going on in this foreground. Or maybe it can be that it will look great when we are editing this picture, but I have to see this afterwards when we are doing the post-processing of this picture. We have to move on because the sun is setting, so we have to get on a little bit with the video. The next tip, and also for the next composition, is use graduated ND filters. So you can use that to darken your sky. And if you don't have that, that's the next tip that I got for you, is using a circular polarizer. It doesn't only get rid of the glare of the water, but it also helps to darken up the skies a little bit. But you still have to expose properly for that sky, so you don't overexpose it, because it will not super help you with the foreground element, because that also will be getting darker because of the circular polarizer. I'm trying to cut off this tree here because I don't want it really into the frame, and the sun is just in between those trees, so it's super cool. The sun is getting right in the center of this frame, and I used the polarizer to get rid of the super highlights in this sky, and also give a little bit pop to the sky, because when you're using a circular polarizer, it will also give a little bit more colors into the sky. And again, for this shot, I also bracketed because I want to have a nicely exposed foreground element, and also the perfectly exposed sky in this picture. So, got our next subject set up. I'm using the Sigma 18-35 to shoot the shot, and I'm at 18 millimeters. I got this beautiful birch tree on the left side of our picture, or the frame, and also this tree here on the left side. So it balances out a little bit in this picture, but the sky is super awesome. I hope you can see it exposed for the sky. And it's getting a little bit heavy on the right side of this frame, because we got this beautiful tall tree here, but also the sunset is going a little bit towards that tree, so it makes it a little bit heavy on this side of this frame. But I'm waiting now for the light. I hope the sky will get some colors, but for now we're getting this red glow here from the sunset in this picture. That's also already super nice. And a little bit here in the sky, a little bit of pink clouds, but the sun is getting blocked by this massive cloud in the back. So I don't know if you're really gonna get some colors in the sky. And I'm constantly looking now at the camera because the light is changing so quick. And again, I'm bracketing this shot because I want to have a perfectly lit sky, but also want to blend in this beautiful foreground. And also in our backs, it's also beautiful. We got this beautiful tree here, and then the sky is super soft. We got a little bit of pinkish glow in the sky, so that's super awesome. But I don't think I'm gonna shoot towards that side. I really want to have focus on the sunset. If it would turn out to go into full color mode. This shot is also our last tip. It's shoot at the right time of the day. So shoot just before sunrise, at sunrise, shoot at sunset, and also after sunset, because at those times of the day the light is very soft, the dynamic range will be very narrow, our foregrounds will be easier to blend in those photos, and also when we expose for the sky, it's not going to be a huge difference when we are exposing for the right light in the sky, so it's going to be easier to get all that information out of the shadows, and you will also have less shadows or less darker parts in this picture. In my opinion, it's also the nicest time of the day to shoot at sunrise and sunsets because of the light is a little bit nicer. I also really love to shoot when there's some colors in the sky. Some don't shoot when there's colors in the sky, but I really like it. I love the colors. I couldn't handle myself. I'm shooting the tree that was in our backs because we got some still a little bit of soft pinks in the sky, and this tree is lit up a little bit from the glow in the sky. So I had to take this picture because it's a very simple, it's a very minimalistic picture, because we only have the tree in this landscape or in this picture, and then we got almost nothing because I'm shooting fairly wide. So I got this tree here, and then here the vastness of the landscape, nothing in this picture. So it's nice. That's the last one for this video. Tip number 10 or so, or 11, I don't know anymore. Trust your gut, because I already packed my gear, but the sky, it got some pink now in the sky, and I already packed my gear. I took a few other pictures because I couldn't handle myself, and but now here, our first frame, it's lit up by the sky. It's getting some colors, and also changed my composition now for this shot. I took a horizontal shot and also a vertical shot of this picture with the pink sky, and I had that feeling like I have to wait for the colors, but I couldn't handle myself, and I wanted to shoot other compositions also and other pictures. But that's a sacrifice that you have to make in landscape photography. Do you really want to commit to that one picture, the last one, or do you want to shoot a bunch of other pictures? If you're gonna combine all these tips, you will be a pro to capture the high dynamic range in the landscape. You can handle the highlights, you can handle the shadows. You know everything now to properly expose for a picture, and that you can capture those perfectly lit photos and be a professional from now on. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.